We're going to skip over the dash for campaign cash before the FEC, and we're going to go straight to area whales consider suing the Orca card for defamation. This was straight from Mike Seely. And you say, Mike, in the day of instant computerized transactions, can you think of one good reason why it should take 24 to 48 hours for funds deposited in one's Orca account to be available for use?
No, I mean, they gave me an explanation.
Well,
they said it would overwhelm the Orca system, but usually it takes more like a week. So 24 to 48 I could live with. And the reason why I piped up about this now is, you know, I typically ride the bus, and I can't get just a regular old bus pass anymore, which never failed me. Now I got to rely on the Orca card, which fails me often. And, you know, it makes me feel guilty. I'm at the mercy of bus drivers' goodwill often, and so are many, many frustrated Orca users when we tap our card and it says it's expired. It's a joke of a system. They've got to fix it. I could go on and on and on, but it's pathetic.
But seriously, the point that you make, though, I mean, we're used to instant transactions constantly.
And that was the whole premise behind Orca in the first place, to simplify things, to make everything easier, to be able to replenish your own account, to give the consumer maximum control. Instead, we're at the mercy of just an awful system that hopefully gets improved.
All right, Joel, you've heard Mike's complaints. Do you think that Sound Transit will be responsive?
They had better be, because it's one of the awful things where something is heavily advertised and touted and written up in the press, and then when you try to use it, it doesn't work. Sound Transit has always been, you know, kind of like 65,000 South African soccer fans when it comes to blowing their own horn. But at the same time, you're gonna market it, make it work.
Okay, well, you're going to have to let us know on that one.
Oh, I will.
Okay, the Exxon still owes $92 million for the Alaska spill, and it's, what, 20 years later? In any event, Joel, this is your column of June the 10th. Beneath the surface, beware of Exxon-style stalling. Alaska fishermen have died waiting for damage checks, and the price of delay in the Gulf could become the taxpayers to pay. That's really going to happen, isn't it?
I don't know whether it's going to happen or whether we've learned that lesson. Curiously, Exxon has learned lessons from the spill in terms of how it drills and how it responds to having backup systems, and when something goes wrong, this is supposed to be reported to the very top of the corporation. But at the same time, when it came time to meeting its financial obligations, Exxon stalled a punitive damages award from 1994 until 2009, when the Supreme Court finally ordered them to pay up a tenth of what the original damage award was. I remember hearing the case argued by, among other things, 9th District U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals Judge Charlie Wiggins, a Nixon defender during impeachment years ago in Congress. And he died, you know, before the thing was finally adjudicated. So again, you had delay, uncertainty. Herring runs in Prince William Sound have never really recovered. You can still find oil there. The situation, I think the administration, even though despite the remarks of Congressman Barton of Texas, did a very good thing to tell them to put up in the escrow fund.
Mike, have your readers grown tired of this story?
Of the spill in the Gulf?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think they just get madder and madder. I sure do. I just read a story about a family in the Louisiana swamp that had for years made their living off not only fishing, but making a proper bait to catch a particular kind of fish that really only lives in the Gulf. And their entire lifestyle, which we like to call it back to the land out here, there it's back to the water. They support themselves exclusively from what they catch in the sea. It's potentially gone forever, and that's incredibly tragic. If I were a trial lawyer and I'm rooting for him, I'd be all over that for a class action lawsuit.
Well, I think that your readers should take heart, because the U.S. Senate is going to come and help. The Senate panel's advance oil spill bill, and this was a quote, "Congress should address some of the obvious violations that have occurred, but the key is striking a balance," said Mary Landrieu, a senator from Louisiana, whose state is bearing the brunt of the BP oil spill, but also views offshore oil development an economic necessity. I mean, that is where she represents, but realistically, if there were a vote taken right now, would the public say no more offshore oil drilling?
I would tend to think so. I mean, right this moment when emotions are really high. But again, I mean, Landry makes a good point. It is partially Louisiana's own doing to have gotten in bed with these people, but they don't deserve what they've gotten. You know, the fishermen down in the Gulf, they don't necessarily deserve what they've gotten. They definitely don't deserve what they've gotten.
Yeah. Well, we're going to skip over the financial services bill, and we're going to go straight to U.S. Supreme Court nominee Kagan. And getting to know her, a portrait of Kagan emerges. And let me see, let's go. If I have a feeling, this is quoting her, if I do that, I'm going to end up doing many things that I regret. Kagan said as she declined one senator's invitation to state an opinion. She deflected any number of questions to the frustration of the questioners. Let's go to the next quote. And the next quote is, another point, Kagan left Arlen Specter, temporarily speechless when she said the prospect of allowing cameras in the Supreme Court, which she supports, might mean I'd have to get my hair done more often. Mm-hmm. Isn't it? It would be kind of nice for a Supreme Court judge to have a personality.
What's happened is that the Republicans, led by Senator Jeff Sessions of Alabama, Senator Jeffrey Beauregard Sessions III of Alabama, have been throwing stuff at the wall, seeing if they could get anything to stick against her. They want to discredit Obama in whatever way, constantly, that they can. So they've even tried to discredit the memory of Thurgood Marshall, the great civil rights lawyer and the first African American on the Supreme Court, for whom she worked as a clerk. They've quizzed her about the banning of military recruiters at the Harvard Law School from using one facility and so on. And she has been relaxed. She has been self-confident. She has been funny. There was at one point where I think it was Senator Graham, where were you on Christmas? To which she replied, like many Jews, I was probably in a Chinese restaurant.
All right, Mike, let's go to the Washington Senate race. Are we down to two people, Dino Rossi and Patty Murray?
I think we effectively are.
Or are we down to just one?
Well, no, I think we're down to two. I mean, I think that any incumbent, even one as established and powerful as Murray, is going to have a challenge on their hands this year if the opponent is somewhat respectable. And Rossi, even though he's lost a couple times, still is a respectable opponent.
What points could Dino Rossi make against Patty Murray or for himself that would resonate with the weekly readers?
That would resonate with our readers?
Yeah.
Not much. I mean, he's a two-time loser, and you got to consider who our readers are. But, I think simply being a somewhat intelligent, knowledgeable challenger goes a long way in this particular election, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on.
I think he can argue that the spending of the government, the bossiness of the government, all of this is out of control. My parents once voted against Warren Magnuson because they got tired of announcements of federal grants, my mother saying that that's simply our money coming back to the state. We should be grateful to him for that. There is a strain of opinion that Rossi can pick up on. At the same time, however, Murray has outfought 3 congressmen to win her 3 terms. She is always, to use my favorite Bushism, misunderestimated.
Well, we're gonna end with one final story. It's the South Park Bridge's final night, and we're gonna have to end with the story. Way to go, Seattle Weekly! The South Park Bridge closed last night. There were bagpipers playing last rites, Duwamish tribal drums beating out a steady rhythm, and some crafty types built their own coffin to make the wake symbolism even more literal. So, we can't say it any better than that. We'll see you right here next week on Public Exposure. Everybody take care.
Hey, have you guys watched the documentary Crude?